Welcome back to your Community Connection Corner here on your Catholic station, Real Life Radio 1380 and 94.9 FM. I'm Jennifer, joined by Marcie Timmerman of NAMI of Lexington. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And what does NAMI stand for again?
National Alliance on Mental Illness.
And I get that wrong all the time.
Everybody does.
But it's important. National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Yep.
And your core mission is education and
Support and advocacy for family members, caregivers, and individuals with mental illness.
Okay, say the whole thing again.
Support, education, and advocacy for family members, caregivers, and individuals with mental illness.
And we talked a little bit in the first segment about the stigma of mental illness and misunderstandings of mental illness. And then talking on the break, kind of going, well, people don't know how to react when they see an episode of their friend, like, oh, well, they're not really going to hurt anybody.
Right.
So I don't need to do anything. When really that person might just really want your attention. They might be crying out for help, but people just don't know how to react. How do we inform people? How does that message get out there? Is there any way to...
Well, we actually have a program I forgot to mention. Our mental health first aid training actually is kind of like first aid, for physical health. This is first aid for mental health. It's a step-by-step process, kind of an idea of understanding how to recognize it and also how to help. But the biggest thing is listen without judgment is one of the biggest things there. Is just listen to the person. Talk to them, listen to them, check in on them, be human. Remember that they're human, whatever they're going through.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, there's emergency lines and places you can call. The main one is 1-800-273-TALK. That's 24/7. It's a national suicide hotline, but they can also help with other issues if needed. They've got all the other hotlines. So we also have a warm line at NAMI Lexington.
A warm line, as
And
opposed
warm
to a
line
hotline.
If it's not a crisis situation and someone really just needs to talk to someone, we're a great place to do that. We have peers who run that line, so folks who have walked the walk with mental illness. So the warm line is more for people with mental illness, but it's a great kind of lifeline out there when you're on your own at night and just need someone to maybe disrupt your thought process or stop you from cutting. So I don't want to actually cut. If I talk to someone, I won't. So they call our line and they handle that.
And people can find that number at your website?
Yep, at namilex.org. There's one line.
NAMILEX.org.
Correct. Yes, NAMILEX.org. And then our crisis tab actually gives you a lot of those phone numbers as well.
I like the concept of mental health first aid.
Yes. It's much needed.
Yeah.
It's like, what can you do in this situation? And it actually teaches you what to do. So it's really awesome. There is a charge for that program. It's the only one we charge for. It's part of the national fidelity model, just to make sure that everyone charges the same for it. It doesn't fluctuate, so we do have to charge for that. But it's a great thing. We're going to have some classes shortly. We'll be announcing that on our Facebook and social media soon. So,
Now, how can people who are interested get involved with NAMI?
We love volunteers. We need them. They're the lifeblood of what we do. I started as a volunteer, still volunteer quite a bit, in addition to my actual paid job.
Right.
Folks can go through our volunteer orientation, learn a little bit about our entire process, and go from there. And that is under namilex.org on our volunteer tab or help us tab. And go down and fill out our volunteer application. We'd love to put your talents to use. Where we use volunteers is a little bit everywhere. Participation Station is completely volunteer. So folks with mental illness can go there and volunteer with other folks. We also have family programs. Our Family to Family class is taught by volunteer teachers. It's a 12-week course of education for family members, caregivers, and pretty much anyone who's dealing with mental illness and someone else. We do have folks who are peers come in because a lot of times they're also family members. So it's pretty much a wide open door. But they teach for 12 Wednesdays in a row. So it's a little bit of a commitment, and you'd have to take the course before you can teach it. So that's one way.
Makes sense.
We also need people to help us answer the phone. And with our walk, which is October 11th, we love to have people help us with media and with just distributing posters and just about anything. So we need a lot of help with that still. We're still looking for registrants for teams and just to get the word out about who we are, because there's still a lot of people who don't know who we are, even though we've been here for over 20 years. So.
Right.
Yep.
And you mentioned in the first segment something about volunteering at Eastern State as well.
New Eastern State looks amazing.
Oh, okay.
It's not as scary as it used to be
Okay.
by any means. And, you know, folks that go in there, it's just like any other hospital. They're treated very similarly to any hospital. There are groups and things like that, though, that you don't get on a hospital floor.
Right.
But what we do at Eastern State Hospital, we're not their main volunteers, but we help with the visitation process. So when family members come to visit someone at the Eastern State Hospital, there's a whole process at the hospital, and we have been asked to help out with that, just to kind of give them that ray of hope in the visitation process, because a lot of times those folks are in the hospital and nobody knows what's going on and they're just devastated. I don't understand where this came from and things like that. So we're able to help them kind of navigate that a little bit, just in that few minutes that we see them while their person is coming out to meet them from the hospital. So it's a great process. It takes a little bit longer than some of our other volunteer orientation, because you do have to go through the hospital stuff as well.
Right.
But it's very rewarding work. It's just a couple of evenings a week, so it's cool.
Now, for someone who doesn't think they've ever been affected by mental illness, do they qualify for any of your volunteer opportunities?
Of course, yes, all of our volunteer opportunities.
Okay.
So,
it's, peer-to-peer.
you can't teach family to family if you're not an immediate family member. That's
Okay.
pretty much the only thing. Participation station, we do ask that most of the volunteers be people with mental illness. But if you just want to come in and teach a class or something like that, we'd love to have you. If you're looking to answer phones and help us with marketing, that's really the place where we put just about anyone into place. We actually have an internship for our walk as well, so if any students are out there, it's unpaid, but it's still awesome. You get a lot of experience in helping with marketing and social media and sponsorship, event planning. So
There's a lot that goes into a big event like a walk.
yes, a 5K is pretty big, and this is our 10th anniversary, so we're trying to make sure it's really big this year. We've had a walk for mental illness for a lot longer than that. We've been part of the national NAMI Walks movement for 10 years now. So.
Okay.
Yep. And NAMI Lexington
Yes.
has been here for over 20 years. So we were here in the early 1980s, and I'm blanking on the actual date, but it's early 1980s. So we've been around for a while.
And things have changed, certainly quite a bit over that period of time.
Things have gotten better for the most part. So
Well,
yeah,
that's encouraging.
Yep, treatment has gotten a lot better. So. And our community presence has helped with stigma quite a bit. I think I now randomly find people in the grocery store when I'm wearing one of our NAMI shirts. They'll come up and talk to me, and that would not have happened in the early 1980s. So it's awesome. We've made an impact already, and we'd love to make it bigger.
So you have a program as well called Hearts and Minds. Tell us about Hearts and Minds. What is this?
Hearts and Minds is actually a national program. It's one of the national programs that we take from NAMI.org and put to place here in Lexington. It is mostly online. It talks about physical health in relation to mental health.
Oh, that's
So it
important.
works on nutrition and education. It kind of puts all of that information in one place. It's very useful. It's at your fingertips 24/7. They have some tracking software and stuff involved if you want to do that. One of the big things at NAMI in general is that we like to look at a whole person. A mental illness is not just how you're feeling today. It's impacted by your spirituality, your physical health, your whole wellness. So everyone has to be healthy in your life in some way. You have to have healthy relationships in order for you to succeed. So that's one of the things that we look at.
And
Healthy Minds helps us with that.
Yeah, and some people think, oh, well, your mental illness will be gone if you just exercise and eat right and have good friends. I was told that once, like, oh, you just need good friends and all your problems will go away. But that's probably not necessarily the case, just eating right.
No, it's not usually the case. Normally there are chemical imbalances in the brain that have to have some pharmaceutical treatment. Now, whether that's long-term or short-term, everybody's individual, and mental illness is a whole spectrum. But there is almost always a need for some kind of medication or mind training, kind of like cognitive behavioral therapy. I call it mind training. It's how to stop your thought process from befuddling you. So there's things like that you may need to put in place just to rewire some of the parts of your brain. Yep.
And another mental illness that we overlook a lot is alcoholism and addiction, and those can fall into the same category, but they have their own stigma over here.
Right.
You know. How do you guys work with that as well?
We do. Our Double Trouble in Recovery program is a 12-step program for people dealing with mental illness and substance abuse. A lot of people with substance abuse are self-medicating for a mental illness underneath. And if you're being treated for one versus the other, there seems to be a little bit of a problem with that. And also there have been 12-step groups that if you come in talking about hearing voices or shaking, they think you've used. And they don't understand the mental health component.
Right.
So DTR is a place you can talk about your therapist, you can talk about your medication in relation to your substance abuse problem. So if your therapist said something that triggered you wanting to use, you know, you can have that conversation and find other people and how they've coped with it. It's really powerful.
And is this a peer-to-peer type thing as well?
Yes, it is completely like an AA meeting. It's just you're allowed to talk about topics that you wouldn't normally cover in an AA or NA meeting.
Right, because schizophrenia, that's tricky.
Yes, yeah, hearing voices, seeing people. Those are complicated. So,
And also you have RAP, Wellness Recovery Action Plan, which is looking at the whole person and trying to, you know, really navigate where you need to go next. Is that what this is?
Kind of a self-knowledge program. It's knowing what makes you healthy and what makes you, sets you off. Maybe if something in your life triggers a depressive episode, you can start to kind of see that pattern through the process of the class. Now, it's a class we offer at least twice a week at Participation Station, absolutely free. Folks get workbooks, and they work on one section at a time, so it's covered all the time. You cover the whole thing over and over again. And it's great because it talks about, I feel better when I shower every day, so I'm going to put that on my list. Or I feel better when I'm around this person and this person and this person. Or I know that I am getting sick when this happens, and I can call this person. And you kind of create that plan in place for dealing with your illness yourself. It empowers you to do that, and that's really important. I think a lot of times we take a paternalistic view to someone who is ill, and that's inappropriate. A lot of them can handle themselves if they have the right tools, and this builds that toolbox.
So before we go, I want to make sure people know how to connect with you. What are the best ways to find NAMI Lexington?
Well, our website is the best, namilex.org. We're also on Facebook. NAMI Lexington has a page. We also have a friend group, but please like the page. We prefer that. And then our Twitter account on NAMI Lexington. We're at NAMILEXINGTON. And we also have Participation Station has its own page. It's psapoc.org. And they have
slower.
PSAPOC, so it's Participation Station Peer Operated Center. Sorry, PSPOC. Sorry about that.
Can you link to that from your website?
Yes, it is on our website under our programs, so please go there. And they also have their own Twitter account at StationLex. So
fantastic. Well, thank you, Marcie, for joining me. And folks need to check out namilex.org. And we look forward to having you back again on Diocese Live and learning more of what you guys have going on.
Thank you.
This has been your Community Connection Corner here on your Catholic station, Real Life Radio 1380 and 94.9 FM WMJR, Nicholasville, Lexington.